They really give me like faith
They
for the
remind,
future. Like they really are like the good ones. They're gonna change the world.
yeah, they reminded me of you guys.
Yeah, yeah, they're strong. They're strong kids.
That's good. And
Yeah.
again, sorry about that.
Thank you.
Okay, it is it's 6:30 on Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. And the Nahant Board of Selectmen meeting is now in session. Let's start with the opening comments. Tony, are you gonna provide the information that John Luan had
Yes.
was gonna discuss? Yeah, all right. Would you mind doing that if you're
Yes, I
ready?
can lead us off. Um, in the last couple of weeks, we had um, a group of residents reach out to us about rodents in the area. And we've also had a couple calls about coyote interactions as well. So we thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about that briefly here at the Board of Selectmen meeting, especially rodent activity behavior tends to change as the weather starts to get cooler. Um, as John explained it to me, they will become more active to seek warmth, to find shelter, and to seek food sources. So you really want to make sure that you are checking your foundation, especially fieldstone foundations, making sure that any gaps in the foundations are repaired and filled. You want to make sure that any type of outside food sources are eliminated. That includes bird feeders or gardens that aren't secured. There is a bylaw in place about trash and making sure that the trash you have in your barrels is secured with a lid. So please make sure that you are putting lids on your trash barrels if you have trash stored outside. And if you run into any issues with rodents, you can call a town hall. This is what occurred in the last couple of weeks, and John will investigate the area. And he did so and walked the neighborhood for a couple hours, I think, and spoke with residents and essentially investigated what he could see and what he could hear, gather information from the residents in that area, and was able to identify some areas of concern and, talk with residents or business owners about things that could be improved in order to, that may be contributing to some of the rodent activity in that neighborhood. So the town is a resource. Please reach out to the town hall, and we'll have John come out there and take a look at what might be happening and what could be improved.
Hey,
Additionally, oh, go ahead.
could you just who or what extension should people ask for at town hall?
They can call the town administrator's office, the board of selectmen office. John technically falls under the board of selectmen and the building under inspectional services. So you could also call inspectional services too. But really, any number you call to the town hall and tell them what you're looking for, you'll get transferred to the right person, and we'll take down your information and connect you with John.
Sounds good.
And then on coyotes, I just wanted to remind people. Let me pull up the website here. If you go on to nahant.org and under community topics, coyote information, or if you search coyote in the top box, in the search box, you'll find, information about coyote behavior. While it's less typical for their behavior to change at this time of year, we have gotten a few calls about interactions. So there's information here about coyotes in areas that conflicts are more likely to occur because there could be in denning areas. But we have a procedure in place about, how to report, what type of, the interaction might be witnessed by a resident. So if it's a sighting, if it's an encounter versus an aggressive behavior, like a pet attack, whether it's unattended or attended, or a human attack. There's, it lists here what the resident action should be and how the town will respond. So, please, if you have any interaction whatsoever with coyotes, please report those directly to the town. Usually if it's an aggressive behavior, you should be calling the police department immediately so that they can respond in an instant. If it's non-aggressive, you can still call the police department. They'll take your information down and share it with animal control. But you can email animal control at nahant.org directly as well, and they will follow up. And I gotta figure out how to stop sharing. Here we go. So that's the seasonal information about wild animals.
All right, thanks for that, and thanks to John for his investigation in that neighborhood. Have some announcements. Metal, white goods, TVs, computers, recycling last Saturday of each month until October. So this is the last month for a while, from 8 a.m. to noon behind the DPW garage. Resident parking stickers required. Certain fees may apply. Visit nahant.org for a full list of accepted material. The compost area is open on Wednesdays and Saturdays from 9 to 3. 2024 resident parking stickers required. Visit Nahant Public Works at nahant.org for a list of acceptable material. Fall leaf pickup will begin on October 7th. Some Mondays pickup, which is, I guess, every Monday. Some Mondays pickups will be moved to Tuesday due to Monday holidays. These must be in biodegradable bags and to the curb by 7 a.m. Visit Nahant Community Calendar at nahant.org for a list of pickup dates and accepted material. Vacant school committee seat. The Nahant School Committee currently has one vacancy. Send letters of interest to Kay Taylor at nahant.org or karas.patty@gmail.com. So I'm going to spell that KARRAS.PATTY@gmail.com by October 18th. So Johnson School parents, this is a great opportunity to get involved in your child's school and school committee. Hope people step up and express interest. Community Preservation Committee community meeting is Monday, October 7th at October 7th, 2024 at 7 p.m. via Zoom. CPC, that's the Community Preservation Committee, to roll out and discuss their FY26 CPA grant funding application process. Zoom info on the community calendar at nahant.org. Water, sewer, and trash bills have been sent out and they're due October 25th. And real estate tax bills, the bills were mailed out October 1st yesterday and are due on November 1st. If residents have any questions about their utility or real estate bills, they can contact the Treasurer Collector's Office at Nahant Town Hall.
Mr.
Gene
Chairman,
or Rob, any additional comments?
yes, if I
Comment?
could,
Of course.
can we hear me?
Yep.
In our last meeting, we reviewed quickly the list of unpaid accounts.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had a couple of questions from residences or taxpayers or homeowners who are asking, how is that handled? I know we did a brief overview, but how do they get collected, and what's the fine basis?
I don't know. There's a fine. It goes on their. It goes on their tax bill.
And
We're
if they don't,
talking about water, sewer, the utility bills, water, sewer, trash.
no, all the unpaid accounts, Tony. It was $129,000 worth.
Yeah, so that's utility bills.
That's all utility.
Yep. So there, you get billed 3 times a year.
Yeah.
If you miss a bill due date, you start to collect interest. That gets added on as an arrear in your following bill. At the end of the fiscal year, if there's arrears left over, you get a late bill notifying you. So a fourth bill, I guess. And then if you don't pay the late bill, it gets liened to your real estate bill.
Okay. That seems to be enough information for anybody to be able to follow through on it. But is there anything else? Any other penalties?
No. Nope.
Is there a time frame?
Each bill is due within 30 days.
I mean, a time element in terms of how long somebody can carry this out before, let's say, going to court.
It never really goes to that level.
Okay, good.
It's at the end of a fiscal year, we have to close out basically the fiscal year. So if there's any arrears, any unpaid bills, you get a late bill. And then that late bill basically is saying, you have X amount of time to pay. And if not, it'll be liened. And if it doesn't come in by that lien date, then it gets liened over to your real estate bill.
And who tracks this, Ed Lock?
Yeah, our treasurer collector's office.
All right, thank you.
Rob, any opening comments or questions?
I'm all set, Josh, but thanks for asking.
All right, moving on to new business. We have some meeting minutes to approve. Do we have a motion on that? I can do it if someone's not ready. I'll do it.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes from August 28th, 2024, September 4th, 2024, and September 10th, 2024.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Rob Tibbo, aye.
Josh Hanford, aye. We have a vote to approve a warrant for state election.
Mr. Chairman, I move the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the Board of Selectmen meeting. Oops, I'm sorry, wrong one. To approve warrant for state election. Oh, here it is. Okay, down the bottom. I move the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the warrant for the state election to be held at the Nahant Town Hall, 334 Nahant Road, Nahant, Mass. On Tuesday, November 5th, 2024, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Rob Tibbo, aye.
Josh Hanford, aye. We have some event requests. We have a motion on those.
Mr. Chairman, I move the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the following event requests. The annual Lions Club Turkey Shoot on Saturday, November 23rd, 2024, beginning at 9 a.m. behind the DPW on Flash Road, and the annual Freezing for a Reason Polar Plunge on Wednesday, January 1st, 2025, beginning at 10:30 a.m. at Short Beach.
second,
Discussion. Just want to note that the benefits from the Lion Club event will go towards different Lion Club charities, primarily eye research. And the annual Polar Plunge, which is hosted by Lancelot Janitorial Company of Lynn, will raise funds that will go to the family of Tracy and Brian Friedman of Lynn, Mass. Any other discussion on the events? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Rob Tibble, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye. Okay, we have some chiefs to some contracts for the chiefs to approve. You have a motion there?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve Chief Furlong's contract. I move the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the employment contract with the Nahant Police Department Chief Timothy Furlong from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2027.
Seconded.
Second,
Okay, discussion. I think I saw Chief Furlong on. Is he still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, we'll give you your first words in the discussion if you choose, Chief.
I just want to thank the board and Tony Barletta and everybody that's been supportive so far. The past 3 years have been a great ride. I'm looking forward to the next 3. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, great. Well, don't thank us yet because we haven't voted. Okay, yeah, by all accounts, you're doing a great job, and we appreciate that, and I know the town residents appreciate that, and welcome any discussion from any of the other selectmen at this time.
I would just parrot what you just said. It has been a good ride for all of us under your direction, Chief. I say thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say that both Chief Furlong and Chief Antrim, in my opinion, have done tremendous work towards gaining the trust of the residents of Nahant. That's a hard job. You've got to maintain a high bar and to earn it and keep it. I think they're both doing an excellent job, and I'm really happy that we're signing them up for another term.
Thank you.
Hey, any other? Oh, sorry. Wait, go ahead.
Thank you. I also want to thank Chief Furlong for working with us to negotiate this contract. Thank you to the board for supporting it. It's a 3-year contract. This will be the chief's second contract as chief of the Nahant Police Department. As I've mentioned to you guys, he has performed above and beyond the expectations and has made significant capital improvements to the police station, secured grant funding for a number of different causes, taken the lead on purchasing new capital equipment, managing the budget, managing the transition of compliance with police reform, which was definitely a challenging task as he started out as chief, hiring quality officers to fill vacant positions due to an increase in retirements. He's led the charge of signing the town into agreement with NEMLEC. He's working towards accreditation of the Nahant Police Department, and as emergency management director, he has certainly elevated the role and the operations of that department. So he's got a lot of accomplished a lot in his first 3 years, and certainly expect him to continue that trend.
Tony, just a quick question. What is accreditation?
Accreditation. Chief Furlong can probably give you a brief explanation better than I can.
So basically, it further professionalizes the department with all of our policies, procedures, how we do things, the building itself, which needs some upgrades. But it's also there's three different stages for a Massachusetts accreditation. There's the self-assessment portion, which we're in. Then there's the certification, and then finally the accreditation. It just basically means we're all on the same professional level as other accredited police departments.
Is there is it all a document review, or is there a excuse me, in-person audit?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I was
That's okay.
a frog in my throat. But is this all a documentation submittal, or is there a in-person audit that happens, or?
Both, actually. So for the self-assessment, that's just basically us getting us up to par to get either certified or accredited. With the formation of the Police Reform Act, police departments have to be certified, so that's a minimum. But the ultimate goal would be to be accredited. It's all policy driven. Once our policies are up and running accordingly, we submit everything to the commission, and they come out and do an audit.
Great.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Rob Thibault, aye.
Josh Amber, congratulations, Chief.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we have another chief contract to approve. A motion on that.
I move the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the employment contract with the Nahant Fire Department Chief Austin Antrim from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2027.
Second,
Chief Antrim does an awesome job, by all accounts, and I'm very proud to say that he is my nephew. And since he is my nephew, I will abstain from further discussion and voting.
If I may, again, this is, I want to thank Chief Antrim for all his work, and for working with the town on negotiating this contract, and thank you to the board, for your support. This as well would be, Chief Antrim's third year contract, and has as well, performed above and beyond our expectations. He filled the role after a brief period of not having a full-time chief in the position. He's made significant capital improvements to the station. He's secured a number of grants for equipment and capital purchases. He's helped the town seek funding for a lot of new equipment, and has really brought the fleet that's down at the fire station, including working outside the box to get ocean rescue equipment that may have been outside of the town's financial means, and turning it into something that is really quite the asset for the town. He's also helped develop the Benson program of replacing fire alarms and CO2s. And same thing with staffing. He has, I think through his leadership, he's been able to fill full-time positions, and has done a tremendous job adding call firefighters to the roster on an annual basis. Both Chief Antrim and Chief Furlong do training or take classes that help them advance their careers as they are in the position of chief of their respective departments, and they continue to do. I know Austin's enrolled in chief classes right now, actually. So I just want to thank him, and I think the town of Nahant is extremely lucky to have both chiefs in their positions.
What's impressive to me at times is I've seen Chief Antrim jump in on various first responder calls and just become one of those to help and assist, aid and abet. Really impressive.
Thank you, Tony, and Gene and Robin, Josh, I appreciate the kind words. Yeah, it's really been a pleasure. I was a little nervous taking this position, but Tony's built such a great team in town that he's fantastic to work for and with, and everyone at town hall, all the other departments. We work closely with police and DPW and the school frequently. And it's really just been a steep learning curve, but also very rewarding. And I just want to commend also the members of the department. I think they're the ones who really make me look good with the work that they do. We've had a lot of staffing challenges over the last 3 years. That's something I'll discuss more with Tony and the Board of Selectmen in the coming year, probably. But we have made some strides with the call department, and I will continue that. But yeah, I'm hoping we can build the staffing up a little better in future years. But yeah, the staff has just been fantastic. And with the staffing issues we've had and some shortages, they've just again and again stepped up and filled all the shifts and made sure that all the calls are getting responded to appropriately. And I every week I get feedback from residents on how much they appreciate the job that the firefighters are doing. And I don't know, they make my job a lot easier sometimes. But thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Rob Tibbo, aye.
Josh Antrim abstain. Hey, thanks, Austin. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We have any background on this here, but we have a proclamation to read here. It's called the Purple Heart Proclamation. And this is being done at the encouragement of our Veterans Affairs liaison, John Lazar. So with your permission, I'll read this proclamation. I don't know, Tony, if you have any other introductory remarks or anyone else?
Well, just for a little explanation, the becoming a Purple Heart town allows it not only does it recognize those residents that have served and have either lost their lives or were severely injured while on duty, and but it also gives the town the ability to recommend the Purple Heart for those who may not have received it. Of course, we would do that working with the relatives of these fallen soldiers. But prior to, without the becoming a Purple Heart community, we lack that ability. So this is something that I know has been very important to the American Legion, who brought it to our attention. And then, as you mentioned, Josh, John Lazar really did a lot of homework and in what we can, what the process is for us to become designated as a Purple Heart town. And then furthermore, once we do that, what our, procedures will be to, investigate the status of those that have served, and if they're eligible, and actually assist in the application of to the nonprofit that actually awards out the Purple Heart designation. So the August 7th is the nationally recognized Purple Heart Day. So what we'll do is with this proclamation, from now until then, we'll be working to apply for as many of those soldiers as we can, and then have a ceremony next year on August 7th.
Great, thanks for that. And I'll read a little bit from the some of the background from the email you sent. Purple Heart is the nation's oldest military medal awarded to the U.S. Armed Force service members who were wounded or killed in combat for their country. The Military Order of the Purple Heart awards the designation to cities and towns, schools, teams, and other entities committed to honoring and commemorating Purple Heart medal recipients and their families. To be declared a Purple Heart community, a municipality with living or deceased Purple Heart recipients must issue an official proclamation recognize August 7th as National Purple Heart Day. When approved, Nahant would be added as a stop on the Purple Heart Trail, a symbolic system of roads, highways, bridges, and other monuments across the country that give tribute to those who have been awarded the Purple Heart Medal.
And we know of at least two residents that have been recipients of the Purple Heart already. And we know of 4 others that are under consideration, meaning they're eligible, but they may never have applied for it. And there's another probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 10 others that we have more homework to do to see if we can find out what the status is of see if we can get where their eligibility status is, and if we can work with their family members to apply.
I take it we should be thanking John Lazar for his efforts on this, I'm guessing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And also the members of the Legion,
Esther Johnson, Mr. Treese.
Yep.
All right, well, I will proceed with reading the proclamation. Town of Nahant Proclamation, Purple Heart. Whereas the people of the town of Nahant have great admiration and utmost gratitude for all the men and women who have selflessly served their country in this community in the armed forces for good of all, and whereas contributions and sacrifices of the men and women from Nahant who served in harm's way in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedom in the way of life enjoyed by our citizens, and whereas citizens of our community have been killed in action while serving in the armed forces and have been posthumously awarded the Purple Heart for their ultimate sacrifice, and whereas citizens of our community have been awarded the Purple Heart for their bodily sacrifice of being wounded in action while engaged in combat, and whereas the Purple Heart is the oldest American military decoration in present use and was created as the badge of military merit on August 7th, 1782 in Newburgh, New York by General George Washington. Initially, it was made of purple cloth shaped as a heart, and the word merit was sewn upon it. And whereas the heritage it represents is sacred to those who know the price paid to wear the Purple Heart. And whereas August 7th is nationally recognized as Purple Heart Appreciation Day, and now, therefore, be it proclaimed, we, the Select Board, on behalf of the town of Nahant, go on record to hereby proclaim Nahant, Massachusetts, Purple Heart Town, and recognize Thursday, August 7th, 2025, as Purple Heart Day, honoring the service and sacrifice of our nation's men and women in uniform that were wounded or killed by the enemy while serving to protect the freedoms enjoyed by all Americans. And that is it. So we are proclaimed a Purple Heart community.
All right, thank you. So our next step is we'll send copies of these minutes once you approve them and the proclamation into the department that oversees the Purple Heart Declaration, and get working to prepare for a nice ceremony next August.
Sounds good. Thanks again to the veterans who worked to make this possible. Next on the agenda is short-term rental rules and regulations, update and possible vote. I think we can start with the motion.
I think we
Um,
skipped a couple on the
Yeah.
list.
Did we? Oh, skipped a couple agenda items.
Did we do the state election warrant after the
Yeah.
contracts?
Yeah,
And then next
Oh,
is
we
the
did
public
that.
safety building discussion.
Yeah, we
Oh.
skipped that.
Why do I not see that? Oh, I'm sorry. I don't see the motion on my cheat sheet here, but oh, it's a separate, you sent it as a separate email. didn't you?
Well, why don't we get into the discussion of it
Okay.
and
Uh,
then,
okay, yeah, yeah, I have the motion, but we can start with some discussion if you'd like.
all right, so Chief Antrim and Chief Furlong are on the call here. And I'll allow them to give you a brief overview. As you may remember, back in 2022, town meeting approved $125,000 to do a feasibility study. So Chief Antrim, do you want to
Sure.
lead the discussion? And Chief Furlong, feel free to jump in.
Thank you, Tony. Yes, what we're hoping to accomplish is form a committee that will develop a request for qualifications for a designer to complete put out the request for qualifications, select the designer, and then work with the designer as they go through the process of assessing the fire department and police station, our needs, space needs, and the current building. They had already completed a smaller scale study of the existing fire station in 2016, and noted a lot of deficiencies at that time. So they're going to go through that process with the police station as well, and then also look at potential sites in town after they come up with a sort of a total of square footage that would be needed for both the police and fire departments. So they'll look at the possibility of combined facility or separate facilities and different sites, and then produce a report that will submit to the Board of Selectmen for hopefully approval, and then potentially move. The design phase would be a separate phase, that would have to be approved and funded at a future town meeting. But for this initial step, yeah, both buildings really need to be addressed. I'll let Chief Furlong talk about the police station, but the fire station has just all kinds of issues. It was originally a military building as part of Fort Ruckman. It was renovated for $20,000 in 1953 to become the fire station that consolidated two fire stations that were in town at the time, one at the bottom of Gardner Road and one in the rear of Town Hall, what's now the Tiffany Room. At the time that they opened the station, the fire apparatus they had was a 1918 fire engine, 1933 ladder truck, and a 1941 fire engine that they also acquired from the military. And within 10 years, they replaced those apparatus, and the building was already out of space. And obviously it's grown, our mission has grown a lot since then. The apparatus has grown, and it's just become really inefficient to operate out of, unhealthy for the firefighters who live there. And in some ways just kind of dangerous because of the lack of space. And other deficiencies, it's not ADA compliant. There's no facilities for female personnel, which we have had over the years. COVID-19, when we had to isolate the crew working together, and other personnel had to be, all of the living space is one shared space, shared bedrooms, shared living area and kitchen, with one bathroom. So that really became a challenge during COVID. We basically couldn't let any of the other fire personnel in the building. And then we had to, take over operational spaces just to create living spaces for the two firefighters on duty, so they weren't sleeping 2 feet away from each other. Anyway, I could go on forever about the problems with the fire station, but I am very appreciative for this funding and to move this study forward and hopefully get some sort of game plan on how to address the needs. Thank you.
We also have the tent out back that stores one of the fire engines out back, and
Yeah.
we
Yeah, the
have to keep
temporary
it heated.
structure in back was put up in 2018. All said and done, it was just under $100,000. It is a temporary structure. We're 5 years into it. I think on the low end of its life is 10 years, so we're potentially 5 years away from needing to replace that. It does house two of our apparatus, one of our fire engines and our ocean rescue truck, and a lot of other equipment that we have on shelving in that tent. I've also had to put just about $100,000 into the building over the past 3 years. Well, between insurance claims, we did have some storm damage and a water leak. So part of the roof was replaced from that. We've also replaced the siding and the windows, the roof over the apparatus bay, and the generator over the last few years, just to prevent further degrading of the building. But I did notice in the past week, the brick facade on the front of the structure is beginning to crack and separate. There's some metal support headers over the windows that are corroding and expanding and sort of shoving the brick out of place. So, and I like that we're moving this project forward, before it becomes, before we have some critical failures, hopefully. So I appreciate your support. Thank you.
And Chief Furlong?
Yeah, I just also want to thank the support that we're getting. Not to get too into the needs of the police department building. Historically, it was a school building that was once across the street where the cemetery currently is. Then it was moved over where it is now. It's been renovated several times over the years. We used to house the ambulance where our dispatch center is now, where all the 911 calls come in. That used to be the ambulance bay for the garage. And we've done some upgrades. We obviously now have a full-time female officer. We've created a women's locker room for her, and we do have some part-time female officers. So the need was there to do that, but just the storage alone, much like Chief Austin, we have new equipment, body cameras. We need storage for all these things, and we're running out of room. The defunct gun range that we have that hasn't been in use for several years, that needs to be cleaned out before we can do anything with that. Even with that, there's very little insulation that needs a lot of work. So to say the least, it's time. I know the fire department might need the building more than the police department for right now, but it is time to do some upgrades.
And obviously, all of the entire fleet of the police department is stored outside.
Correct.
So, constantly.
Yeah, along with emergency management vehicles, we have to spread out and find different locations to store them. So, but on top of that, the accreditation standards for the building, you're weighing apples and oranges as far as, do we get a new building? Do we continue to upgrade? Is it going to be able to be accredited? I don't have those answers right now, but we definitely need some work.
Yeah. So, when I look at our budget, our future capital plans, and, seeing what we've had to fund over the years, the deferred maintenance and the amount of money that we're pouring into the the buildings and the equipment, because they are stored outside, it adds up, and it's hard to see or to compare those costs to the cost of a new structure. But we're definitely getting to a point where, taking the next step on the feasibility study is critical, I would say. So we have prepared a motion. Are there any questions from the selectmen before we get to the motion?
Yeah, I've got one. It's not a question, it's just giving some input. And it's about probably 35, 40 years ago, this same subject came up. And at the time, we had a brief, I'd say brief, it was a couple of visits and that was it, to the bathhouse police station location at the end of the causeway. And the object there was the MDC at the time, not DEP, wanted to give up both facilities, the police station and bathhouse, and the public works garage across the street, which still stand now. Police station was fantastic. I mean, it's got all the cells, it's got the rooms, it's just set up perfectly. The other option was not an option, but to add to that, a rebuilding of the firehouse where it stands now. What got in the way of it, people were afraid that we were taking first responders out of town a mile and a half, 2 miles away from where they needed to function. But the buildings themselves are fantastic. So just to throw that in might be something to, again, take a look at, because they probably don't want to carry it any more now than they did then.
I believe part of the feasibility study process when looking at alternative locations is an analysis on response time. So those are things that we would work through during the next step of the process.
Okay.
Chief Bantrim or Chief Furlong, has any of the $122,000 approved in 2022 been spent at this point?
No, not yet. It really wouldn't be spent until the designer is selected.
Yeah, that was what I assume that the developing the request for qualifications to select a designer is something this committee would do. It would be someone you don't hire someone to develop that list, right? Is that true?
So we've between Tony and Chief Furlong and myself, we've have a number. I think we have about 10 examples of requests for qualifications for similar studies. So the committee's really just going to go through those, pick and choose, develop one specific for Nahant, and then put it out and select basically a top 3 designers we would like for Tony to contract with. And
all right. Any other discussion before we take a motion?
Let me just toss in that I'm thrilled to death that we're having this discussion. It is long overdue. I've spent probably hundreds of hours in the fire station and more than a few up at the police station professionally, not as a guest. Both locations are extremely cramped. I'm concerned with the impact of the facility down at the fire station in that it is so small, so cramped. I can only imagine it will or has had an impact on the type of equipment that we're able to purchase. It's got to be limiting in that regard. I sure as heck wouldn't want that gas bill for heating the tent because I've been in there for quite a few hours also, and in the middle of winter, and we've got to keep it warm because we've got an engine full of water in there. those gas furnaces are roaring, and so it's yeah, we really need to get this under control, and I'm thrilled by the conversation.
Thanks, Rob. You certainly have more hands-on experience than Gene and I, so appreciate the comments. All right, so I make a motion to create a public safety designer selection committee, an ad hoc committee that will be comprised of the following: fire chief as the chair, police chief as co-chair, finance director, fire union representative, police union representative, town administrator appointment, and a second town administrator appointment. The committee will be a total of 7 voting members. The term will be 2 years or until the project is completed. The charge of the committee is as follows: develop a request for qualifications to select a designer to complete a feasibility study for the replacement of the Nahant fire and police stations. Following acceptance of the feasibility study, the committee may be retained to select a designer for schematic or final design based on the recommendations of the feasibility study. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, now that the motion's been read, are there any other points of discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Rob Tibble, aye.
Josh Ingram, aye. Okay. We have a water, sewer, and trash abatement policy discussion and vote. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the water, sewer, and trash abatement policy. Second?
Second.
Discussion. Tony, can you walk us through this,
Yes.
please?
So we have existing, what I'm going to show you is the existing, zoom in on this. Share my screen. We're likely not going to take a vote tonight. I want to show you, but this is what we're working on. This is our current rules and regs regarding water sewer abatements and trash abatements. Our water sewer abatement regs are a little bit more advanced than our trash abatement, and so I'd like to combine some of these elements. Things like customers who file abatement applications or requests are required to pay all uncontested prior bills. It has to come in within 30 days. Interest will accrue over 30 days. That's actually part of municipal finance law. So that's going to be in there anyways. But these rules and regs really are specifically currently applying only to the water sewer abatement adjustments. And so what I'd like to do is bring this to the Board of Selectmen at the next meeting, basically doing some cleaning up of these old rules and regs, especially now that our trash bill is combined with our water sewer bills. So they're separated into 3 payments. So we should really just have a more uniform policy, one abatement form that's applied, a utility abatement form. There's other things that we might want to define. In the past, when the trash was billed once per year, if someone came in for an abatement because of a change of use or because they have their home is under construction, so they're not living there and therefore not using curbside collection, they'd be eligible for an abatement. But now that we bill in 3 cycles trash, clearly defining that that abatement would have to be filed each time, because if someone gets an occupancy permit midway through the year and then jumps back on to curbside collection, they should be paying for that prorated amount. So there's elements of that we want to incorporate. And what I'll do is I'll have that prepared for you at the next meeting.
All right, yeah, it would be good to have some time to look this over in a little more detail and discuss it and so on. So before we vote, for sure. Um, any questions, Rob or Jean, before we move on?
I'm all set, Josh.
Right.
No, fine.
Um, see John Coulon has joined us. Hey, John, welcome. Tony kind of covered your report from earlier in the week, so I don't know. You're welcome to add any remarks, but I think we're pretty well covered it pretty well.
Still muted.
Yeah, if you're trying to speak, John, you're muted. We'll
Here we
go
go.
on. Oh, okay.
All right, thanks. Sorry. I've not spoken to Tony since I sent him my report. So, Tony, did you find anything, any gaps in the report or anything you would like me to report out on?
No, I mean, I didn't get into like the specifics of the findings of your investigation. We talked more generally about, change in season and rodent behavior and general guidance to the public. Also, explain to them the process of if they have any issues, how they can contact us, and then that you'll go out and take a look around and do an investigation and talk to neighbors. So we talked about that generally.
Which is what we did, myself and one of the complainants last week. We walked the neighborhood, and I introduced her to some of the neighbors who some expressed concern, and some we approached a chicken coop, and the owners were present, and the neighbors introduced themselves to each other, and the complainant who was walking with me got an education in how to construct a chicken coop in a way that is healthy for the chickens, and it excludes animals such as rats. So the two chicken coops and rats, no, they don't have to exist together. We've seen plenty of chicken coops which are constructed properly and maintained properly, and rats are not an issue. One of the pieces of conversation that comes up frequently is that you can have a bird feeder without having rats, but it has to be maintained properly, placed properly, without scattering or overfilling the bird feeder or having too many of them. Unfortunately, there are folks who seem to have accepted that if you want birds around, you're going to have rats, and or mice, and that's not the case. It is possible to put wildlife and exclude rats, but you also have to pay attention to what is in the what is on your property, not only the ground, but what is the integrity of your house. And so I'm willing to walk a person's property with them, and property owners, and discuss the integrity of the foundation. And sometimes it means some low cost, low tech repairs. Sometimes it means calling a handyman to get more involved. This has been done elsewhere in the town over the years. It comes up every few years, and I've done this kind of neighborhood walk around in the past, and it always comes down to not being a single food source, but a combination of factors. We talk about the proper storage of garbage. We talk about keeping the foundation of your house tight, but we often do not talk about having the vegetable garden managed in such a way that it's not easy food source for not only rats but other ground-dwelling animals. This is the time when the vegetables are ripening in the gardens, but also the fruit trees and the nut trees are dropping what they do in order to seed the ground, and rats and other animals can get a lot of nutrition from what is dropped to the ground. So it means that people do not assume that because they saw a rat that it's anything more than a rat looking for a food source on the just trying to find something not only to eat but to bring back to the burrow. There is a movement afoot that I support for reducing the use of rat poison. There are many approaches that are within the pest control industry, and many approaches that we as citizens can take on our own properties that can be taken without the use of poisons. And it's pretty obvious when you look at it that a poisoned rat is a dead rat and no longer a problem, except that it becomes food for other animals in the food chain, and as they consume the dead rat, they consume the poison that killed the rat. So we're trying to, at the very least, reduce, if not eliminate, the use of vermin poisons in order to reduce, if not eliminate, the existence of poisons within the food chain and the animal kingdom that we have to live with. Does anyone have any questions at this point?
No, I don't have any questions. Thanks for chiming in, and just to echo what Tony said, if you think you have a rodent rat problem, contact town hall, and John's here to help, and obviously a great source of information and knowledge, and really good at pointing out where problem areas could be, and also appreciate you bringing up or discouraging the use of poisons as a method to kill rats, because it does impact the entire food chain and therefore the entire wildlife chain. So appreciate you mentioning that, John. All right. Guess we can get back on the agenda. Next on the agenda is short-term rules and regulations update and possible vote. We can start. Well, why don't we start with the motion? Someone want to read the motion?
I move the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the short-term rental rules and regulations as presented.
Second.
All right. Tony, maybe you are you able to share them on your screen? You already are sharing them on your screen. Thanks. I guess for discussion, I will just chime in and say I hope that we can get to the point of voting for and approving these regulations. We really need to get the short-term rental units registered in town, and this is step one. So hoping we can make that happen tonight, but we'll see how it goes. With that, any discussion? Rob, Gene? I know you've been working on this, Rob.
Josh, I've read through it. I'm very pleased with what we have. There's still some challenges that lie outside this with respect to owner occupied. But as far as the regulations are concerned, I think we've got it. I think it's here.
Yeah. I guess I agree. I agree. And I guess I'd also add that, if we implement these rules and regulations and find that they fall short, it's as simple as revising them and voting on the new set of regulations. So I don't think we should let perfection be the killer of good. And
We did add a couple changes from the last time that we spoke. We added language to number 12, to the extent required by Massachusetts law. There was a comment that we received from a resident of concern that the language was vague and may be perceived as this section applying the building code when otherwise it wouldn't be necessary. So by adding this language, I think we clear up that issue. We also, in some cases, we've added this list here is what should be included in the rental certificate, the rental application. I apologize. And in some cases, so what we added number 3 is a DBA certificate. In some scenarios, it's a business that's operating the short-term rental and it's done under a DBA. And we just wanted to, again, that's already required by law that you have a DBA certificate when you're running it in that way. But we wanted to include it here that, you are including that certificate when you submit your application.
makes sense.
Rob, just if you would, what areas did you think needed some clarity?
Well, the owner occupied designation is a little challenging. What we have is basically what other communities are using, in that if a property is owner occupied, then it's well, it would be considered to be better managed. There would, if you take the words as they are, owner occupied would suggest that you have the owner in the property while it's being rented. Unfortunately, from a legal standpoint, that's not necessarily true. I believe Dan Scripp has said that in order to meet the definition of owner occupied, the owner has to be in it for 6 months and a day. Tony, was that it? Something like
Primary residence essentially is
yeah, to meet the residential requirement. So in this with this going on, it's we can't guarantee if they're licensed as owner occupied that there's actually going to be someone in the building.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and as Tony's showing here, the fee schedule would be separate from this rules and regulations as part of the normal fees in our fee schedule, which is a nice way to do it because for the same reason you can change the fee schedule without changing the rules and regulations and vice versa.
So when we put out the rules and regs for comment, we hadn't really published the fee schedule yet because the rules, the regs aren't promulgated, so there was no fees to really attach to them when we were going through the fee schedule review. So I can show the fee schedule that goes with these proposed rules after you vote on the regs. And then we can open that portion up for comment for a couple weeks and see if we get any comments or questions. And then, like you said, if we need to, we can always amend the regs after approval.
Tony, how many registrations do we have now?
We don't have any registrations yet.
We don't have a means for people to register right now. So this is how we get there.
Yeah, no, but we had a number of not owner occupies.
We had sent over 50 letters to properties that we had believed to have at some point throughout the year operate as a short-term rental.
Yes.
Nothing is registered with the town yet, but we got that information of those that are registered with the state.
Okay.
So you can scroll up. Can you scroll up, Tony, to where it talks about what you have to do to register? Like the inspections you have to get and whatnot. Yeah. Yeah.
You start with a rental application. And included in that application will be a number of things that are required. So first you apply. And with that application, you'll be explain what you need to include. You can get these things prior to your application and submit them with your application, or as your application is open, you can get these things and update your application as it's under review. So one is proof of registration with the state. Two is a certificate of good standing from Inspectional Services Office. So making sure that you don't have any open building permits or anything of that nature. A municipal lien certificate from the Treasurer Collector's Office. That basically will, that's basically a report on whether the property has any outstanding bills. A certificate of compliance from the fire department. That would be required every other year. And that's to make sure that there are working smokes and CO2, carbon monoxide detectors in the property and in the proper places. And then a certificate of fitness from the Nahant Board of Health. That's a standard. That's also standard for any rental property, whether short-term or long-term. A certificate of code compliance from the Office of Inspectional Services. So this is where building inspector would come out and look at the property and inspect it for the code. Any issues with the property related to building code. An attestation of compliance with the Nahant bylaws and regulations. A guest information packet. We want to see a copy of your guest information packet, which you would be required to have readily available for any guests. And later in this document are things that should be included in that guest information packet, like good neighbor guidelines, tenant and guest responsibility, who the local contact is, respect for neighbors, noise, lighting, maintenance of the property, garbage, parking plan, pets, fire pit, things of that nature.
I would guess to execute this would require some sort of a appointment at the town hall to go over most of it.
Our inspectional services department would be reviewing these applications. Where was it? Guest information packet, then the parking plan, certificate of insurance, an operator affidavit that you are owner occupied or owner adjacent or have a special permit if you're non-owner occupied. Number 12 is that you're again, this is the chapter 34 review. you're compliant if required, and the DBA. So you submit your application and you get all of these things in line. Once these are all completed, your application is approved and you're issued a license.
Now, can somebody use it functionally as an Airbnb if they're not registered?
No. The general bylaw that was passed by town meeting require that you be licensed with the town.
Good, thanks.
This section talks about inspections. That's what you were talking about, Josh, but I kind of just explained it.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to show the steps that someone would have to go through to register. That's all. So I've read it and I like it. There any further? I guess the only other comment I'll make is that just so people know this the website nahant.org for several weeks for public comment. We did get I think a few comments and questions, but everyone's had a chance to chime in. So is there any other discussion? If we're ready to vote, you, Gene and Rob, are you ready to vote?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Rob Tavo, aye.
Josh and from I. Okay, feels good to get that off the list, off the to-do list. Now we can move on to the fee schedule. Put that onto our list. We do have a motion on the fees. Do we want to take a shot at that?
Might as well.
All right, I'll do
Mr.
it.
Chairman, I move,
Okay, go ahead.
I move that we adopt the fee schedule as reviewed or as presented for short-term rentals.
Second,
That's not what I'm seeing for a motion.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't think we had them. You know what? I've got the wrong page again.
Okay, well, I'll take it. I
Yeah,
move
go
that the
ahead.
board of selectmen vote to open a public comment period on the short-term rental rules and regulation fees. It's really on the fees. It's worded a little funny, but all comments should be sent to ktaylor@nahat.org by November 1st, 2024. That's the motion. Sorry. Do I have a second?
second,
Okay. Tony, if you don't mind, you're probably sharing already, but I'm looking at you're way ahead of me. Yeah, so these are the proposed ones. I'm just seeing these for the first time today, so I certainly would like some time to digest them and understand the basis for the amounts. Good start though, for sure.
What I'm highlighting in yellow are fees that are already in our fee schedule, things that we already charge for, and those are the amounts. I'm tempted to say that this is as well, actually. So that what's not in yellow would be new fees that we're creating. And what the proposal here is, you have a $250 application fee, which starts the process. And then once you complete the process, your license fee is $500, but your $250 from the application would be rolled into that. So you basically owe another $250 once approved. If you are not approved, you forfeit the $250 application fee. The other items that we talked about that you would need in order to get your application approved are these items, which as is showing, the ones that are in yellow are already, those are the costs that are already on our fee schedule. We're adding a certificate of good standing fee that's from inspectional services, and the building inspector's fee is $75. But when you add all these up, if you're owner occupied the first year, you're looking at a total of $725. On year two, you can subtract $105 from that. And then year three, it's back up because your building inspector fee and health inspector fee, as currently written, those are completed every 2 years. And I'm sorry, and even you can subtract another 20 because if you have a DBA, that's a $20 fee to the clerk's office, and it's good for 4 years. So this is what owner occupied year one. If they don't have any of these things already, they'd be looking at $725. Non-owner occupied, you have to add in again an already existing fee of a special permit, which is $400.
And non-owner occupied is only allowed in the business districts.
Correct. Correct.
All right, this looks good to me. So you'll have this put up on the website. Assuming we vote to approve this comment period of until November 1st, and then fellow selectmen, we can make any suggested changes that we think are needed in that period. And our first meeting after November 1st, we'll vote on the fee schedule. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks for showing that, Tony. Okay, next on the agenda is vote to create a rights of way committee.
Did you have a motion to?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. We did have a motion and it was seconded, and now we need to have a roll call vote on opening this comment period through November 1st. So, Gene Canty, aye. Rob
Tibble, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye. Okay. Comment period has been approved. Next is a vote to create a rights of ways committee. You want to take that motion?
Okay, I'm a little nervous because I think I'm working off a little different version of what you
Oh.
had.
Well, yeah, I can read the motion for you guys because Dan responded with a couple changes. So
Okay.
if you want to start with
that.
like a discussion,
Let me, okay, yeah, we'll start with a discussion. So, rights of ways, we have a number of rights of ways, in Nahant, and, to some degree, I'll just say that, they're certainly not all marked. Their locations are not at least readily publicly available. And we'd like to do something about that. And it's one of these things that keeps falling down the agenda or priority list as urgent matters pop up, as they always do. And so the idea here is that to establish a committee whose sole focus, a small committee whose sole focus is to work on these rights of ways so we can get them reestablished and marked and so on. So it seemed to me like a good way just to have a small group of people focused on, all right, let's get this one specific thing done. Maybe we can make some headway here. So that's my comment. Any further discussion from or introductory remark, Gene or Rob?
I feel this is a great approach. I'm really glad to see this this committee being formed.
Gene, do you have any comments?
No, I agree with what Rob just said. I think it's past its time.
Yeah. Yeah, so, Tony, would you be so kind as to read the, here it is. All right, I can take a shot at this. I move the Board of Selectmen establish a rights of way subcommittee with the motion of overseeing the process and progress of activating and publishing town-owned rights of ways throughout Nahant. This committee shall work in conjunction with the town administrator to, including but not limited to, establish a plan on how to identify rights of ways to the public, document legal possession, recover town rights of ways that have been encroached upon, and all items related thereto. The committee shall report to the Board of Selectmen through the town administrator and submit a written report for publishing in the annual town report. The committee shall consist of a member appointed by the planning board for a 3-year term, a member appointed by the open space committee for a 3-year term, and a member appointed by the town administrator for a 3-year term. This subcommittee shall automatically dissolve in 5 years unless the Board of Selectmen votes to dissolve it sooner or to renew it for another designated time period. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any additional comments? I like the idea of a planning board member appointment and an open space committee appointment and a town administrator appointment. I also like the fact that it's a small committee. Sometimes small committees are, you know, it's a little easier to get everyone together. So I like it. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Rob Tibble, aye.
Josh Antrim, aye. Making some progress tonight. Ongoing business. Let's see, do we have any ongoing business that I don't know about? Anything, any ongoing business that you wanted to bring up, Tony, or Gene or Rob? I don't think we have anything listed on our agenda. Just double checking.
Yeah, if I could bring up a couple of items. We discussed them, we didn't discuss them. I mentioned them at our last meeting, and that was dealing with air quality and ocean bacteria. And what we had discussed at that time was to have us, the selectmen, interchange time at different meetings that Swampscott and Lynn would have with respect to the Stacy Creek.
Yeah.
The outfall.
Yes.
Brook, yeah.
Stacy Brook. And that we would attend those meetings so that we would know, or at least be in line with what everyone else over there knows as to how they're proceeding. The other is air quality. And we talked a little bit about GE, and we talked about Wheelabrator, and we now have an article that was just in the paper about heavy influence of bad air as a result of fuel burning on planes. And so I'm just asking, I'd be glad to contact Fitzgerald over at the town administrator over at the Swampscott town hall, or Tony. I'd prefer that you do that and see if we can't at least maybe borrow one of their new 10 that they received, one of their new air quality analysis units.
I'll reach out over to Swampscott and see, get more information, see what the options are for us on that. And then with the Stacy Brook task force, I did reach out to my contact over with the city of Lynn, and he was on vacation, so I'll follow up with him, see when the next meeting is there.
Yeah, it'd be good to get some attendance at those meetings.
Pardon?
Sorry to interrupt. I was just saying it would be nice to get some attendance at those meetings as you had suggested at the last meeting, Gene.
Yeah, I think now more than ever with what's taking place with the environment. And when we talk about climate control, this is self-control. Has nothing to do with the climate.
Yeah, and I was at the last meeting, I had suggested that we write a letter on the Stacy Brook outfall expressing our desires. And I said I was gonna write the letter and I didn't get around to it. So I will shoot for next meeting to have a draft letter. I'll get it to Tony a couple days ahead of the meeting so that they have a chance to chime in with any suggestions, but I can take a shot at the first draft.
That would be good. They've had 3 in-depth articles in the item, and I think in the Globe about air pollution, and obviously Stacy Brook. But yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good, Tony, if you could set that up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for reminding us about that stuff, Gene. The other thing on the agenda was the discussion on changing the Board of Selectmen to a 5-member board. This is something that you want to discuss, Gene?
Yeah, I'll make that very short and sweet. I don't see any support for that at this point in time, so maybe I'll revisit it down the road.
Okay, okay. So, discussion over for the time being, is that, what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Think the next thing is Coast Guard housing update. Let me just check. Coast Guard, yeah, Coast Guard housing update. Tony, you want to take that?
Yep. As far as update on lot number 2 and lot number 8, abatements are currently underway. This time around, as lessons learned from the last time we did demo, they're actually doing full abatements with the structure still in place so that it can be used as a containment. And once the abatements are complete on the interior and subgrade of the foundations, then they'll be moving into demo. So we expect both those structures to be cleared this month.
Tony, can I ask you a question? The abatement that you speak of, this was necessary for all of the buildings that were already removed?
Yes.
And what does abatement mean? What are they abating?
They're removing any type of so there's asbestos material in the building. There was in the tile. There was also asbestos lined ductwork in the foundation of the properties in the slab. So when you have to remove those carefully and according to DEP regulations.
Okay.
So any type of hazardous material, building material that was used to construct those buildings when they were built, they have to be properly disposed of before. You can't just throw them in the dumpster with wood and sheetrock and shingles and all that other stuff.
Understood. But the asbestos hazard was present in all of them, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So, Tony, can you provide a little more like granularity on that schedule? So like the abatement is now through X and demos.
I don't have a up-to-date schedule. But I know that this part of the process was gonna take 2 weeks, and I know they started last week. So I'm assuming they're gonna be done with it, unless they run into anything irregular, by the end of this week. I know that they were also, I don't know if they've started the removal of the oil tanks, but that was a 1 week process. And I thought it was going to happen simultaneously because it's outside work. But I did notice that the equipment had been removed from the property, so they may have had to adjust their schedule. Once they get full sign off on the abatement of the interior of the building, then they can move into, plus they also have to have shut off of water, sewer, and electricity. So I'll have to get a more up-to-date schedule that I can send out to the board. But I fully expect those buildings to be cleared this month.
Yeah, that'd be good. I'm thinking that, we're trying to sell lots, adjacent lots at the same time, and, probably doesn't make it look more enticing to have, a mess adjacent, but, it's kind of beyond our control at this point, so. So anyway, I guess anything we can do to accelerate the process would be helpful, that's all.
Yeah, I mean, abandoned homes doesn't look great either, and obviously if depending on how quickly we want to move on the next process, the next RFP process, we want to remove these properties quickly as well. And of course, the new property owners that purchase adjacent lots, some of those lot lines are not where you would expect them. For instance, the lot line that separates lot 2 and lot 3 actually was, going through where the old shed was for lot number 2. So lot lines shifted. So you really do want to eliminate those other buildings, so it doesn't interfere with future property owners.
Yeah.
And then as far as the sale of lots goes, we've had 3 bid openings. Lot number 1, we have an executed purchase and sale agreement. As a reminder, that minimum bid was $425 and it came in at $451. Lot number 3, we expect to have a purchase and sale agreement executed by tomorrow or Friday. We had 2 bids on that. The notice of award went to $502,000. The minimum bid was $450. And then lot number 5, we had the bid on Tuesday. We didn't receive any bids for that lot. On Monday, actually late last week and into Monday, I was communicating with the 4 realtors that have been helping the town along the way through the process. And on Monday, I sent an email soliciting a quote from them to be for limited listing agent services. So the town's still going to manage the procurement process and the closing documents and the legal proceedings. But what the listing agent will help the town do is list them on the MLS, market them, and advise the Board of Selectmen on the next RFP process, minimum pricing for the next lots, things of that nature. And those are due back to me by Monday. So hopefully we get competitive quotes and we can award and bring on an agent next week. that can help us, move through the remaining process.
That sounds good. Yeah, I'm glad that cycle is a short one. So,
Also, as for lot number 5, I did get some questions about, so what happens now that we didn't get any bids? So we have multiple options, and one is to issue an addendum to the current procurement and relist it and have the bid opening the next available Tuesday. So right now, lot number 7 is scheduled for next Tuesday, the 8th. Lot number 9 is scheduled for Tuesday, the 15th. Lot number 11 is Tuesday, the 22nd, and we can issue an addendum and put lot number 5 at Tuesday, October 29th. If any of those lots end up in the same situation as the current, we can include them in the next RFP as well. So, looking at that right now too.
all right. That it on the Coast Guard housing, Tony?
That's it.
All right, next is preserving East Point. We're basically in a holding pattern while Judge Carp considers the issues of legality. It sounds like that is information suggests that that's not going to happen. I mean, legality on the damages claim. It sounds like that's not going to happen until January. So, not much going on at the moment. Unless anyone else has Gene or Rob. Tony, any comments from you on that?
I'm good, Josh.
All right, town administrator's report.
We've experienced, residents have experienced some missed trash and recycling, during curbside collection. We put a Facebook post out, earlier this week. I just wanted to reiterate that, if you notice that your trash has been missed, the sooner you go on to nahant.org and submit a missed trash report, the better. We've created that fillable form so that once it's submitted, it automatically gets sent to Waste Management, who then will issue a ticket and it will ping the driver of whoever's in town. So the best case to resolve any situation is to get that ticket submitted directly through the website, so that if the driver is still in town, they can come back around and collect whatever trash or recycling has been missed. But we've also had issues of roads or neighborhoods being missed due to parking issues. And I know this is specifically in the Maple and Sherman area with those narrow streets. And the Waste Management trucks are reporting that they're unable to get past some of the vehicles parked on that street. So I just wanted to reiterate, if a trash truck can't get by, a fire truck can't get by, and that's a public safety issue. So we will have, especially in that area and any of the other straight narrow roads, we'll be having Waste Management contact Nahant Police Department to come out and escort them through those areas. Have the police department get on the loudspeaker and get vehicles moved. But if you live on a narrow street and it's tight to get around your parking space, on trash collection day especially, please make sure you move your vehicle out of the way so that the trucks can get by, and be aware that you really shouldn't be blocking passage of larger vehicles on the right of way there.
And I assume that-
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that regarding filling out the form on nahant.org in order to ping the driver live. I assume you don't want to be overzealous. In other words, if your trash is usually picked up at 8:30 and it's 8:35, I'm assuming we don't want to bombard them with false alarms. So I guess you just use judgment about do it early, but you know, not too rough. I guess would be what I assume is good advice.
Tony, quick question.
Yes.
The notification, as a for instance, if someone is missed on the Thursday route, they don't find out about it until after the trucks have left. Do they still send the form in so maybe it gets picked up on the Friday?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, to me, I think, yeah, of course, with Josh's example there, give it a little bit more time, but the sooner you can get that report in, the better. So that, once the collection truck has left town, it's harder to get them back to pick up anything that's missed. So trying to get the driver pinged while they're here is gonna hopefully solve the problem quicker.
All right. Anything else for the town administrator report?
Nope.
All right. Next up is citizens forum. Any citizen wants to make a comment or ask a question? Raise your hand, unmute yourself, state your name and address. I think I saw Ken's hand go up first. Go ahead, Ken. Ken, I can't hear you. I don't know if anyone else can.
Nope, hang on.
I got it. Yeah.
Hang on. I'll turn up the volume. How's that? Is that better?
Yes.
So it's still a little hard to hear you though. I don't know is there anything in front of your microphone?
I'll talk louder. How's that?
Okay.
Is that better? Okay. I just don't chat, Tony, I don't know if it was intentional, but chat was disabled during this meeting. So I was not able to ask the question earlier. Chief Furlong is now off the call, but question on the police station, and this came up when I was on the FinCom a few years ago, actually with Chief Waters, may he rest in peace. But do we know if there's lead, asbestos, or anything else in the police station, particularly the shooting range, that might need to be mitigated?
I believe that is the case in the old shooting range. There is.
Okay, so that'll be known as they do the study. I mean, that's already identified. Okay. Let's see. And I promise you all, I have edited these for brevity. So thank you. I'd like to thank Tony for getting a response to my email from last week, following up my question from the last Selectmen's meeting a couple of weeks ago. And Selectman Antrim sent it on Monday. So just doing a little math here, the current amount remaining in the $3 million gift fund is $759,390. That means that we have expended about 2.24 million of it so far. And just averaging over the entire 41 months that have elapsed since May of 2021, that's about $55,000 per month, which leaves us about 14 months left. So, and my issue in raising that is that at some point, the legal fees may exhaust that fund, and then there's still an open question in terms of damages. So I guess the next question would be the 1.5 million Community Preservation Act borrowing that was authorized in 2021. Can that be used, or do we know if that can legally be used for costs and damages, even if the taking is actually not successful?
I would have to reread the gift agreement.
Well, it's not supposed to be the gift agreement. It's actually a Community Preservation Act.
We did talk about that in the past. I think the answer is no. The CPC funding can only be used for the conservation restriction. So without a conservation restriction, I don't think those funds can go towards damages, I think is the answer.
That's right.
Take Dana's off. It does, I mean, the statute itself says that it is possible to use it for taking, but it doesn't say anything about what happens if the taking is not successful. So, I guess I would defer that to maybe Dan or someone else. You know, for
No, CPC funds cannot be used to pay off a judgment, and that's what this would be if it gets that far.
Okay. Okay, so I guess, so my question about will it still receive the state match is kind of moot then if it cannot be used for that. Okay, so just looking again at the, you know, the petition or whatever it's called that the town had submitted, and actually Northeastern had also submitted with all the legal questions that Josh mentioned earlier, that are now in front of the judge who's gone for several months. There are a bunch of items in there that are open to question, but there are three items in particular that Northeastern had identified. You know, apart from construction delays, which they're claiming at $24.6 million, because I guess it's more expensive in 2024 than it was in 2021. But they do have hard costs of like $9,000, $537,000 in attorney's fees, and then $297,000 in expert fees. All that adds up to $844,000. So ignoring the whole construction delay piece, you know, that number alone would exceed what's currently left in the gift fund. So again, I honestly, I don't think this is a violation of any confidentiality, but, or any, you know, impact on what the litigation might be, but just from a financial planning perspective, you know, what options, you know, is the board considering to pay for that, if it does in fact exceed what's available in the gift fund?
We're gonna see how it goes with Judge Carp.
Okay, so if he agrees with Northeastern for at minimum the 844, where does the difference come from? Particularly if the CPC money cannot, if we can't use that money.
I don't think we can go down the road. It's kind of a hypothetical, and we're still in litigation.
All right,
Brendan,
Brendan?
we'll leave it for now. That's fine.
Brendan, your hand was up next. Are you able to unmute yourself, Brendan? Thanks.
Yep. Well, I don't know. Like, I know Ken had a long list of questions. I guess the only thing I want to check is there any non-Northeastern questions that he had for other topics that were on the call that might still be appropriate for him to finish up. I don't want to take over his time if he had other legitimate questions.
Well, we can circle back to Ken after everyone else has a chance, if that's desired. So, if
Okay.
you don't mind stating your name and address, just the formality, you know.
Yep, Brendan Veronica, Head 2 Summer Street. I had a couple of questions on different topics. First off, about the police and fire station. Is the committee that's being set up, I guess, to study the siting location, do they have a mandate to locate the new facility outside the flood zone? More of like, should we, if we're going to site it somewhere, we're going to make sure we outside it above our known flood zones.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we'll be looking at.
Okay. I guess my next question, I got contacted again about if I had any security footage of the wharf, and heard that the current cameras at the wharf are not working. Are those now working? And if so, and if not, like, is there a plan to get those functional again?
Sounds like a Rob question.
Yeah, Brandon, it's kind of a long answer to get all of the details in. The state police manage this system, and they've had trouble with the server that it hasn't just been Nahant, it's been all the communities in this network. The server that they were using to manage the cameras was not correct. They transferred everything over to a new server and thought they had everything done, and it was running fine for several weeks. And then it dropped out late last week. Again, same problem. The cameras weren't connecting to the server. There was a delay in getting it fixed because the network administrator was attending a seminar in, I can't remember if it was Omaha or Ohio, and he couldn't get back to bring them all back online. So the answer is that yes, they are working. They came back online on Tuesday.
Okay. All right. That resolves that. And then I had a couple of questions about the short-term rental, I guess, regulations that have just been approved. I meant these as comments, but on the spot, I had a question about the application itself. Is there a spot there where there's like basically like a sworn statement that for a resident owner or a resident, I guess a occupied owner property, that they basically attest that yes, I'm a resident, full time at this property. Because I guess my concern is someone who, basically decides to stay away for 8 months out of the year, because no one may notice, and I want to see if there's a mechanism to basically hold people accountable if they violate the law.
Yes, and we had the same thought, and yes, we added that in there for the same reason that you just said.
Okay, is there a penalty if someone violates this?
You jeopardize your license and your ability to rent.
Okay, is it just that you lose your license, or you banned from renting for a period of time?
You would lose your license. You can't rent. You're by the bylaw, you're not allowed to rent in a residential district unless you're owner occupied. So until you prove that you're owner occupied, you wouldn't be eligible for a license in the future.
Okay,
in those zones.
well, I guess I'm trying to, but the proof of owner occupying is just basically well, I guess I'm trying to figure out, is there a way to dissuade people from basically violating it every couple of years, because all they then those show like, hey, the next year I lived there 181 days.
There is a fine structure that we've actually already started employing on non-owner occupied rentals in residential areas. Dan, you
Yeah,
might be
it
able
comes
to
down to,
better explain like how, what our enforcement capabilities are.
it starts with the neighbors. We, as a town, have no way of knowing if someone lives there 6 months in a day, to be quite frank. It takes the neighbors just, hey, listen, these people aren't here. They're away, 8 months out of the year, and we don't believe that they are using this as our primary residence. And then we take it up from there. And we do our best to do the investigation and then act appropriately. But at the end of the day, we have no idea if someone is there 6 months in a day. It really belongs to the neighborhood to bring the issue up and challenge that homeowner.
And the affidavit that the homeowner signs that says that it is their primary residence, and thereby meaning they're there for 6 months of the day, right?
Yeah, that affidavit comes into play when someone files a request for enforcement, and then Wayne sends them basically a package that says, if you believe you do not apply, then you can fill this paper out and we'll reassess.
Why wouldn't that happen with everybody's registration?
I
Thought that was on the list.
It might be on the registration. I'm thinking more of the request for enforcement, but it might be on the registration. I can take a quick look while you guys are
The
talking.
affidavit,
Yeah,
it is. It's
Okay.
one of the things required in the application.
Good.
Okay, so it sounds like there is some enforcement mechanism. I guess more specifically, though, I was kind of looking more long term because some people now with remote work, someone could easily sneak off for 8 months, live somewhere else, rent out their place. They get caught, okay, they then stay home for a year or two, and then they go off and they do, take a cruise ship for a year. So I was just trying to check if there's a way to dissuade repeat offenders over time. But maybe that's something for a discussion for another time.
No, there is a system in place. It's called the non-criminal disposition bylaws under our police bylaws, and it sets out a procedure we need to follow. In fact, we're doing it now with 1 or 2 spots. That starts out with a warning, then the fines graduate to $300 a day. And if someone finally is really not listening after repeated warnings, then we actually go to Lynn District Court to seek an injunction. So we haven't had to do that yet. Salem did it, and I'm sort of following their example. But that is the process.
And was that for an owner occupied?
It's for anyone who's violating
anyone,
any bylaw, really. But in this particular case, it does apply mostly to the non-owner occupied short-term rentals in residential districts. That's where it's really coming up.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. It's good to hear that there's a mechanism. Thank you, Scott.
Rick Kennedy, did you have something you wanted to ask? You're muted now.
There we go. Hi, Rick Kennedy, 17 Bayview Ave. No, you guys just covered it. That was what my question involved was. I didn't notice as you were scrolling through the rules and regs document for the short-term rentals, whether there was a clearly defined enforcement section there for non-compliance that included fines, penalties, cease and desist, and as Dan just mentioned, court order injunctions. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be needed from my experience. That was it. So you guys pretty much covered it.
All right, Ken.
We've
back up.
I was just gonna, we've had 5 requests for enforcement so far. And 3 of them have not been an issue since we've enforced or, discussed with them. I guess reach out to them and had them either prove that they're primary residents or not. And the 4th, we're going through that escalating process of a fine structure. And the 5th one, they were able to provide enough evidence that showed it was their primary residence. So it's out of 5, I'd say we've had 3 successes, 4 we're still fining and going through that process, and 5 ended up being proven to their ability that it's their primary residence. So it is definitely a learning curve, but so far, just going through the process of responding to requests for enforcement and then communicating with the owners, it's worked fairly well. Not perfect, but above average, I guess.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ken, is your hand up again, or okay, go ahead.
Stayed up. I was suppressed with my earlier series of questions. One remaining here, and I'll defer the rest. The 2021 warrant article and the gift agreement with Nahant Preservation Trust both say that the $3 million gift is to be used for the eminent domain case under Chapter 80A, which was the taking for conservation purposes, which the town has lost. That language, or both also include language that says or otherwise, or as may otherwise be agreed upon by the town and the Nahant Preservation Trust. So my direct question here, has the Board of Selectmen made any agreement with Nahant Preservation Trust to use the $3 million fund or any part of it for the separate dedication case, or to pay legal costs for the individuals who are named in that case?
You know, Mr. Chair, I have to point out the case is not lost, Ken. There's a long way to go. Therefore, this is active litigation, and I really would strongly recommend we don't go down this road, because who knows what's going to lead to the point where we're going to go into privileges, and we can't, once we break that bubble, we can't
It's
redo
a
it.
matter of paying lawyers' bills. This has nothing
Well,
to do with the actual content
that-
of the litigation.
You can ask all the questions you like, Ken, but the selectman is under obligation to answer the questions. You can ask what you like. My recommendation is to let that question lie. We'll address it when it's more appropriate.
And when will that be? When the 3 million is gone, or when we've lost it, whatever level of court we're going to go to?
The selectman is under no obligation to give you a date.
Okay, so again, the fundamental question is the use of the $3 million gift, which has nothing to do with the content of the litigation or anything that may be confidential. So I'm simply asking, how is that money being spent? And is it being spent on things that are beyond the Chapter 80A eminent domain case?
Again, this is a public comment. It's not a question and answer period, so you can make your comment. There's no obligation to respond to it. And again, I'm advising the selectman not to answer at this point.
All right, anyone else? All right, I don't see anyone else, so been a little out of touch for a couple of days here. Are we in need of an executive session tonight?
Not from my perspective.
I think we are, I think we were planning on going in to executive session, even if it's quick.
Okay. Okay, so we'll do that, and it's kind of convenient for me to read this motion because I have to declare anyway, so I'll go ahead. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to adjourn to executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Paragraph 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, Northeastern University Marine Science Center, 430 Nahant Road, Nahant, and to discuss pending litigation strategy regarding the town of Nahant versus one Coast Guard housing tenants. If the chair declares an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body, and I, the chair, do declare an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body, and we will not return to open meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, roll call vote.
Gene Canty, aye.
Rob Tibble, aye.
Josh Edward, aye. Thank you all, and
All right, give me a sec to set us up here.